Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Football Baron podcast. Chelsea is looking like they're in dire straits right now, with Chelsea losing again and continuing their poor form, losing against Man City in a 3-1 scoreline where they were absolutely battered in the first half. In particular, Frank Lampard is looking like he could lose his job if this poor run of matches continue, and Chelsea top transfer signings such as Timo Werner and Kai Havertz aren't doing enough. And what else we could see is the rise again of Arsenal with Mikel Arteta pushing on with his side to their third straight win. Manchester United also winning against Aston Villa alongside Tottenham against Leeds while holding a clean sheet. All right, let's talk about Arsenal and their win against West Brom. Very impressive win. For starters, Kieran Tierney in particular. I'm a huge fan of what he's been doing, pushing through his injuries that he had earlier on in his Arsenal days. But most importantly, another third straight win, and Kieran Tierney starts it off quite incredibly with a beautiful strike and managing to get past a West Brom defender quite easily. And the most important thing for Arsenal now is just keep racking up those points and climbing up the table, which they most definitely are doing in the recent games, but they cannot let up. With the potential arrival again of Thomas Partey, that could bolster their ranks, and Arteta even said that it's going to be like signing a new player when he comes back. And he's been quality, it's just that injury is kept him sidelined for a good bit of the season. But the main thing right now for Arsenal is just maintaining focus and try to see if they can at least challenge for Europa League, and if they pull off an incredible run, maybe challenge for the Champions League. But it's looking like they're in a very tough spot at the moment. They are, as the standings stand, they're 11th in the league, 23 points, and fifth place, which is Europa League qualification, is 6 points away. So it's definitely possible, and it's possible for them to also reach Champions League if they continue this strong form. But the main thing again for Arsenal is that there's some players on that squad that just Arteta you can't fully trust to be consistent for him, and he's definitely going to need more signings, but the signings that he's made, such as Thomas Partey and Gabriel, have been fairly solid, I'd say. And I think the main thing Arsenal need is just keep holding on and maintain that form, and then you'll see them climb up the ladder. And if they fall and stumble again, they most likely aren't going to be able to recover later on in the season. Man United win against Aston Villa. Aston Villa again. Jack Grealish putting in an incredible performance. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get a result. I think Aston Villa definitely could have gotten a result from that game, but they did not. But Manchester United, I think what we're seeing is a positive development from them. I talked earlier, a couple podcast episodes or last podcast episode, about how Manchester United just specifically need a consistent set of performances in their next 5 games, especially with the next games being quite an interesting match. For starters, we will have Liverpool versus Manchester United this Sunday. In 2 weeks' time on Sunday, January 17th, and that will be a very incredibly important game that could decide the title, as well as Man City potentially looming around the corner for them as well. But main thing for Manchester United, just keep it up, and like Arsenal, they're climbing up, and they've been climbing up for a while now, and now they're at second in the table, tied with Liverpool for first place, but Liverpool are ahead on goal difference. But main thing for Manchester United is that they cannot slip up. Like Arsenal, they're known to slip up, and when they slip up, it's a deep tumble. So Manchester United just need to focus on not slipping up. That's all that can be said. Is just maintaining focus and keeping that steely determination. I think Bruno Fernandes will play a major part, and I'm sure he's already been playing a major part. And for their victories and in this consistent set of form, as well as some other key players. So they just have to keep focus, and it'll be good for them. Chelsea versus Man City. Wow, very disappointing from Chelsea. And speaking of the result of the Chelsea game, I think we got to talk about Frank Lampard and his position. They lost in a very terrible way, I'd say. They could have lost by way more. But the main thing now for Chelsea is what the future is for them and what they're going to be trying to achieve. They aren't, I'd say, in a absolutely awful position. They are in a bad position, but they're going to have to go in a form like Manchester United if they're going to be looking to go all the way up to second or third again, and potentially even first. Because with Frank Lampard, he's 26 points in the table. He's 17 matches. He has 17. Chelsea has 17 games in hand. So they could even be going lower down the table with the other results still needing to play out. But main thing for Frank Lampard right now is he needs to motivate his side. They look completely demotivated. The players just don't look like they're ready, or just the tactics aren't really that good either. But again, Frank Lampard, I think the board shouldn't rush, and Abramovich, you never know. Abramovich has had this treatment with managers before. Maybe Frank Lampard's a different scenario, but Frank Lampard should be given the rest of the season. See what he can do. I think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been given some time. I think Frank Lampard deserves it as well, but it's not looking good. If his next results in the next Chelsea games keep piling up, they are facing Fulham on Friday of the 15th. Then that should be an easy match. If he doesn't win that and then doesn't win against Leicester City and Wolves, those are two strong teams, then it's looking like his job will most likely end, because Chelsea will be going deep, deep down the table. Let's talk about some transfer news, specifically what's going on with David Alaba's situation at Bayern Munich. It's looking like he's not going to be staying at Bayern. It's already pretty much been confirmed, and it's maybe that he'll set to replace Ramos at Madrid. Real Madrid, Zidane, the manager of Real Madrid, has given the nod to the board to try to sign him, and they've met the salary demands that Bayern, unfortunately Bayern were unwilling to meet, and I believe the salary demands are 10 million after tax, 10 million euros after tax, and which was not met by Bayern Munich. And Ramos, who is yet to sign a contract with Real Madrid, if he does leave, then what we could see is David Alaba filling in those boots. He's extremely versatile of a player, so he could be very, very useful for Real Madrid. But I'd see the only main position would be central defender again, if Ramos leaves. But David Alaba would be a great signing, though. I think Real Madrid could really use him if Ramos doesn't resign. But if he does resign, I think he would be far more useful at a Premier League club, I'd say, if they can meet the salary demands. Because I think the main issue is that not whether there's a lot of top quality clubs wanting to sign him, it's the salary demands, which Bayern Munich weren't willing to meet. But David Alaba, looking like he's set to replace Ramos at Real Madrid. If Real Madrid and David Alaba can finalize those contract deals and get ready for the deal, then we could see David Alaba at Real Madrid, potentially replacing a Sergio Ramos leaving Real Madrid. All right, Manchester United news, and there's some reports coming in about Manchester United feeling that they've dodged a bullet with Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho, who has been in incredible form for Borussia Dortmund for 2 seasons, has not had one of the best starts to the season. He's played 12 matches, 1 goal and 4 assists, and the previous 2 seasons he played 34 matches and 32 matches. And in the 2018-2019 season, scoring 12 goals, 14 assists. And in the 2019-2020 season, 17 goals and 16 assists. So definitely not all of this in the Bundesliga. Definitely not as well as he started and as well as what he did last season. But the main thing, I think, is that now it's looking like they're going to focus on another person, Erling Haaland. According to reports, Manchester United are looking to bring in Erling Haaland with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, looking at the Norwegian star as a great option to bring in. I think the main thing will be, though, is whether or not Manchester United can bring him in. He's only been there, I'd say, 1.5 seasons, so it's gonna be interesting to see if he leaves so quickly. But he could continue his prolific goal scoring record, and I think if Manchester United can get him, he would be a great option, and I definitely think a far better option than Anthony Martial. And continuing along Manchester United news, we got to talk about Paul Pogba and what his future could be at Manchester United. It's looking like Man United are preserved and resigned from trying to keep him, with Mino Raiola's claims that his time at Manchester United ended is done. But they still have this contract going up to 2022 because they triggered a contract extension. So they will be looking to sign him. Specifically, who would accept him? I think maybe teams such as Juventus, Real Madrid, or PSG. I don't know if a Premier League club would be willing to bring him in, but I think it looks like he might want to go to Real Madrid. He's always said he wants to go to Real Madrid, and Juventus might be looking to bring him back, but honestly, I have no idea. He hasn't been in the best of form, and he is aging. He's still really young. He's still a young player, 24, 25, I believe. But just I feel like his form the past 2 seasons haven't been up to par. Even with he's improved a little bit, I'd say. I'd say a fair amount with Bruno Fernandes also in the midfield, but still, it's not up to par, and frankly, not acceptable with the performances that Bruno Fernandes is also pushing out. And I think that I think Donny van de Beek is one of the players that has suffered from it because he hasn't been able to, receive playing time as well ever since he moved to Manchester United. And I think the main thing now for Paul Pogba is whether or not those clubs are willing to bring him in. The transfer fee shouldn't be too large because he would only have 1 year on his contract, but definitely a new outlook to what Manchester United are doing. Ever since his agent made those claims, I think Manchester United are just done and understand that he doesn't want to be at the club. Positive talk coming out of Tottenham, with Tottenham beginning to have start to the contract talk between Harry Kane and re-signing a new contract. I think it's positive though. We heard rumors that he could be leaving. I mean, Tottenham weren't really getting much done, and after that Champions League result against Liverpool, it was looking like Harry Kane's future could be something towards an exit away from Tottenham. But with the arrival of Jose Mourinho and what he's been doing, I think we are seeing Jose having his influence clear to see. First of all, they've had a good run. They have had a dip, and I think they could recover from it, and I honestly believe they will. But I think the main thing is, though, coming from this, is that Harry Kane has played really well under Mourinho. Look at the season. Him and Son have played incredibly well. Harry Kane has improved far more and has become I think it's not arguable that he's world class now. But him re-signing is a positive sign for Spurs fans, and it's reported that he wants to stay at Spurs. And I think it's great that their talisman striker is going to stay and try to re-sign a new contract. But there are clubs such as PSG and other top clubs just keeping an eye, and Real Madrid keeping an eye on Harry Kane. But if Tottenham can sign him, that's awesome. That's great. He's still, I'd say, pretty young of a player, 26, 27. He still has a lot of years ahead of him, and what he can produce. And he looks like he's in his prime right now. And if he can continue this form with Tottenham, they can definitely come back into the top four and challenge again, keep continuing to challenge for the Premier League. But I think the main thing that Tottenham fans should be worried about is whether or not they can keep that interest away, in terms of whether or not the big club like Real Madrid or Barcelona, if they can get their act together, if they can stave away that attention off. We've seen Tottenham lose some players before, and Tottenham isn't that big of a club where they can stave away that interest. But if they can, that's great to see for Tottenham. and the fans. Just a great player to keep, and he's been absolutely prolific and also an incredible player. I'd say we have a fairly large pool of teams that could be relegated this season. And let's start off with looking at those main teams. It's 5 to 6, I'd say. Newcastle is the six if they lose if they lose 2 to 3 of their next 3 games, because they haven't won any of their last 5 games, and Steve Bruce is definitely potentially in trouble if he doesn't get more players in, whether it's through loan or just fixing up the many loose ends that Newcastle has. But the main six, I'd say Newcastle, Burnley, Brighton, Fulham, and West Brom and Sheffield United. I think Sheffield United are most likely to get relegated. 2 points. In order for them to get out of the relegation zone, they need to win 4 games, and I don't see that as happening anytime soon. And they might get 4 wins. They haven't even gotten 1 win yet, and I just don't see them staying up. Chris Wilder is going to have a very, very hard time if he wants to get them up. But West Brom. Honestly, I think West Brom is also another favorite to get relegated out of this 6. And Fulham or Brighton and Burnley and Newcastle. I think the teams that will get relegated are the teams that are currently at the standings right now. Fulham, West Brom, and Sheffield United. West Brom, sure, they have Sam Allardyce, and he has never gotten a team relegated before. But I think he's going to have a tough time because there is reports and him saying that they had players that they were going to bring in, but the Brexit changes. With Brexit, they have basically stopped that. And I think those 2-3 players, whether they were good or not, they would have been a major boost, and they were clearly part of his plans. But Brexit has kind of ruined that. But also, I think Fulham, out of the 3 that are currently in the relegation relegation zone, Fulham is the most likely to potentially escape it. They've drawn their last 4 games, which is, I'd say, fairly good. They've drawn 4 of their last 5 games, and I think that Brighton and Fulham. It's going to be a battle between Brighton and Fulham predominantly. Burnley, I have a feeling that Sean Dyche can keep them up. He's a great manager, and what he's done at Burnley is absolutely incredible. But I think it's going to be predominantly through Brighton or Fulham, and I'm tipping not Brighton. I'm tipping Fulham to lose this. I just don't see much in the way of Fulham succeeding in their Premier League campaign. I just don't think there's really just what we've seen from their games is that they don't really have it in them, I'd say. And that's not trying to be too harsh, but just what they've shown is not enough for them to stay in the Premier League. It's kind of like Norwich, where they have I'd say some glimpses of quality here and there, but not that much. And just in the end, it's just them going to be relegated. And I think those are the predominantly 3 relegation favorites. It's going to be Fulham, West Brom, and Sheffield United. And Sam Allardyce will see the first team will finally have his first relegation. All right, that will be it for this episode of the Football Baron podcast. Thank you all for listening. Please go to our YouTube channel, Football Baron. If you are listening on YouTube, make sure to listen to us on podcast platform, whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, or Google Podcast. And if you are on a podcast platform, please subscribe to us on that platform or follow us and give us a rating. We really appreciate it. And thank you, and have a great day.